Hello and welcome to the Clan Blue podcast post-match reaction for Aston Villa 4, Celtic 2. Aston Villa book their place into the round of 16 in the Champions League. Get in there. We'll talk about all that. We've just got back from Villa Park. I've still got rosy cheeks from being sat in a hat and a coat for the last hour and whatever it was in the car, like a little toasty cinnamon bun. So excuse the rosy cheeks. How's things, Matt? You all right?
A toasty cinnamon bun. Delicious.
Yeah,
I'm really, I'm buzzing, to be honest. I said to you just before we came on air that we did it very much the Aston Villa way. It'd been boring, wouldn't it, if we'd have had it wrapped up like 5-0 after half an hour, like we all thought it was heading that way.
well, it's going to be 15 minutes.
Well, yeah, I think, but I don't think we touched the ball for the first minute. And then after that, I think we just kind of blitzed them, didn't we? And then in a very Aston Villa way, left the back door open and made it more tense than it needed to be. But it just added to the drama in the end. I thought it was a really fantastic evening. And it was a bit old school in the end. It wasn't quite people listening to the transistor radios like to find out the results from elsewhere, but it was lots of people, lots of kind of mumbling and trying to kind of find out what was going on, and then a little bit of a party atmosphere at Villa Park at the end. So
yeah,
I think it's marvellous. I don't use that word very often, but I think it was a marvellous evening and a marvellous outcome.
You know what else is marvellous?
Oh, I think I do, yeah. But I'll let you say it.
It's the NordVPN discount code. If you want to get the best discount code available off the NordVPN plan, there is a in the top line of the description. There is a link. You get 2 years and 4 months for free with our code, like many other podcasts that have this sponsor.
Who'd have thought that NordVPN would be marching into the last 16 of the Champions League with us? You're going to have to go back and renegotiate.
I mean, they backed the right horse, haven't they, with this podcast rather than some of the others? Yeah, we're Champions League, mate.
Imagine you go into some of the big boys and thinking you can flash the Nord cash there. No, trust us. We're on upward. I can never say the word trajectory. We're on an upwards trajectory with NordVPN and Aston Villa. Bring it on.
Before we move on, one for the audio listeners, I'll explain in a second. But for those that are watching along on YouTube, there's 500 people here live at 25 to midnight on Wednesday, just after the game. Let's all just have a little look at this, shall we? Looks good, doesn't it? I mean, for those that are listening, it's the league table. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not gonna read every line of it out for the audio only. Listeners.
Every single number, yeah. No, yeah. Villa in 8th place, just snuck into there. I mean, Lille getting in there as well. They won 6-1 tonight. 2 results went our way. Milan lost, which John Townley did cite as one that could happen. I can't actually remember who they played off the top of my head, but they had to win to get into the top 24. So he recognised that wouldn't be easy for Milan. And obviously the Barcelona Atalanta one was the one that we all looked at. That Barcelona just avoid defeat. Shouldn't be that hard. The amount of times I refreshed that fixture in the last, 15 minutes. I've never looked at my phone so much at Villa Park, to be honest. The game was good in front of me, but I just wanted to know what was going on in Spain, and seeing that tick over to 2-2. I think it got as far as 90 plus 8 at one stage. Villa had finished by then as well. And it all came down pretty much to that. We'd done our job. An Atalanta goal in the dying seconds there. I was thinking, like, what's the added time for? Is there a delay for a penalty? Is there literally all I had was just the scoreline. An Atalanta goal there would have seen Villa drop out of the top 8, and that would have been kind of a real, as mad as it is, a disappointment. Despite winning on the night, we wouldn't have made it. The fact it all kind of went our way, which we said it was possible beforehand, doesn't feel very Villa, is it? I know we made it difficult, but I'm sure I wasn't the only one expecting. We've done our bit, but someone else has kind of pipped us to it.
I'm just trying to think when the last time we'd have been hanging on for that. I mean, obviously we were all glued to the tellies, weren't we, last year when Spurs lost to Man City to get us in the top 4. Would it have been when we stayed up under Dino at West Ham when that game?
I thought that'd be different, isn't it? Because we weren't there. Because the lockdown. Because I was thinking, when was the last time I was in a stadium, like refreshing my phone to see what other clubs were up to? And I genuinely can't. There will be one, but I can't remember what that would have been.
I think. Is it what do we bank? Is it like 9 or 10 million quid that we banked for getting through? Surely some of that can be spent on improving the kind of 4G and the Wi-Fi there. If they're going to keep us hanging on, they've at least got to give us a decent way of connecting ourselves with the outside world. It was almost like an evening for distractions, though, wasn't it? Because everybody was checking other scores on the phones, and then there was like little bits of kerfuffle going on, wasn't there? In the upper Trinity, I think there was a little bit of aggro going on.
Yeah.
And I had to. I mean, I hope that their parents don't mind. But there's some kids in front of me. I sit in the second row, Trinity Upper, and the kids kept standing up and trying to turn around to see where the aggro was going on. I was like, can you just sit down so I can watch the match, please? And I was like, that really kind of boring old man. Just sit down and behave yourself. There's a football match here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I couldn't be bothered with all the kerfuffle. I'd just rather keep my eyes on the match.
Yeah, I mean, let's touch on it very quickly. A lot of it was in I say a lot of it. Some of it was in the hospitality kind of middle section of the Trinity. You could see people, Celtic fans, standing up and cheering when they scored, which I wouldn't do that personally. I'd be too scared to even speak before they go, well, he's got a Scottish accent. He must be Celtic. I'd just be sitting there on my hands thinking I can't get involved here. To a certain extent, I mean, they've come to see Villa paid hospitality and they've lost. So fair play. I'm not paying it. They are, whatever. But it's also a little bit like if they were in the Holt end, would they be doing that? Because they'd probably get, a telling off, let's say, if nothing else. In the hospitality, there with you.
Wasn't in hospitality. Some of this was in the Trinity Upper.
Is in the upper as well?
It was amongst our people.
Okay.
But yeah, I think without going into too much detail, I think it was sorted out. I don't think they were there for the whole game.
I mean, it's easy to give it kind of Billy Big One, isn't it? When you got your lanyard and you prawn sandwiches, and who's going to do anything? You paid your money, you're there, enjoy it if you can. It's not for me. Anyway, I don't really care. Thankfully, what didn't kick off any kind of serious ways as far as I could see from where I was. I've not seen anything on social media. I've literally walked through the door and jumped behind the computer, so I've not seen anything else. Apart from Villa's potential 4 opponents, and I've scanned through the Champions League permutations and all sorts. Me and John are going to do a video about the Champions League either tomorrow or Friday where we'll look at, I'm not going to say we're going to get there, but Villa's kind of potential routes throughout this competition, who they could play, when and where, when do they play, what's the prize money. We'll do all of that separately. I haven't got the brain power to do it tonight. Before we get into Celtic, because the big talking point, it's a little bit like when we qualified for Europe Champions League last year and the Conference League the year before. Yes, it came after a match. Park that for now. It's the kind of moment of getting into the top 8, isn't it, that we're here to talk about. Aston Villa's next round opponents in the round of 16, bypassing the February mayhem fixtures of the playoffs, which is some big teams in there, by the way. Borussia Dortmund, Sporting Lisbon, Atalanta, or our old friends Club Bruges. I mean, no easy games in the Champions League. That's a decent selection, I think.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because the more you advance in the competition, these two schools of thought, isn't that? There's one, I want games that we can win, so we get further into the competition. Or I want the big boys to come to Villa Park and it to be an occasion and have the best away trips that we can have. You'd back us, wouldn't you? I don't want to get carried away because it's been a creaking season, hasn't it? And we've said it so many times that we're into the last 16 of the Champions League. We're still within touching distance. We're still in the mix for the European places in the Premier League. I still don't think, when I was chatting to my son and his mate and my nephew in the car on the way back, I still can't quite put my finger on the last time we played consistently well throughout a game. Is it as far back as Man City at Villa Park? Potentially, I don't know. I'm probably missing some brilliant sparkling performances, but the fact that we're there, I keep saying this, if we're in and amongst it without playing that well consistently throughout the 90 minutes of games, and we've had a patched up squad, Matty Cash has gone off today in the conveyor belt of injuries and suspensions and stuff like that. We can back ourselves. I think we can back ourselves, providing that. We've found a habit, not every week, but we've found a habit of doing enough, haven't we?
Yeah.
And tonight was one of those ones where we've managed to conspire against ourselves, but then get ourselves back out of it by doing enough. So I don't want to give it the big one and think that I'm taking anybody in this competition lightly. But I do think that these chance for us to progress beyond the 16, but we're a while away from that yet, aren't we?
And something that's different to what the format has been this year that would have been last year, that we've not played anyone in a 2-legged kind of home and away thing yet, which obviously we would have last year if the group stage was still the same. So whoever we get, there is a Villa Park tie. I think Villa are home in the second leg, which sometimes is an advantage. It's not if you've lost the first leg 5-0. It depends what happens, obviously. So we will talk about the Champions League and what comes next on an actual dedicated episode for it. If I had to push you, it means nothing. Is there one of those four that you'd like to have, or least like to have?
I don't know really. I know it's a crap answer, but whichever one we end up having, to be honest, because I mean, I'll put it back on you. Who would you like to have? I had a great day in Dortmund back in back in the summer, so it'd be great to go back there. But again, I don't know. I'll throw it back to you. Which one would you fancy?
I'm still at the stage of thinking I want to get as far as possible, so I want the easiest winnable game, and it's Champions League, so we know that it's not going to just be easy. I thought Celtic was going to be easier than it was, but we conceded twice, which I don't like. I want Bruges for revenge. We shouldn't have lost to them in the circumstances that we did. I know it's a little bit, I don't want to say boring, but we've already played them once. To have to go and play them another twice feels a bit like, played Bruges 3 times. But I think that's a winnable fixture. I don't think we'd have lost that game if Torremings didn't do what he did. Let's go and put them back in their place, basically, bypass them, get to the quarter-final. And again, you can kind of plot who could get there. It looks like Liverpool or Barcelona at this stage. But I mean, if Villa can get their way to a quarter-final, Liverpool's a little bit, you don't want to play an English team. I don't. Anyway, you want the sexy Barcelona tie, don't you? It's not inconceivable to think that Villa could beat anybody in that round of 16, and then all of a sudden you've got a two-legged game against Barcelona to make you way to the semi-final. Like, absolute nosebleed territory at that point. So it's just good fun, isn't it? It's good that we're still talking about this. There was a very real possibility that what would have felt like a disappointment, today's conversation could all have been a knockout playoff game, a two-legged affair against somebody that, I mean, a lot of good teams are down in the bottom of that 24. It could have been a really tough PSG home and away in a knockout, and that would have felt different. So I'm really, really happy to bypass that terrible run of fixtures in February. We can potentially pay more attention to the FA Cup at that stage as well, as a minor side point. But it's full focus in March. Champions League nights will be back. A big two-legged affair. Another home game at Villa Park. Second leg. Whoever it is, I fancy us as long as we've not been battered in the first. And the route is there for something to look forward to, and it's just very exciting.
I think you just hit upon it there in terms of one of the biggest advantages of tonight. Obviously, we threw. Line our pockets with a big kind of pot of cash for getting through to that stage, but it's trying to clear that fixture congestion and trying to clear that calendar really, and we have seen, haven't we, that the squad's, I wouldn't say quite running on fumes because we're only the end of January, but it has been creaking under the weight of fixtures, under the weight of expectation. So I think that had just been, listen, we'd have been up for them. And I'm sure us as a fan base and the squad would have been up for those games if we had had to go through the playoffs. And like you say, that middle section, some of the bigger ties or some of the bigger teams are in there if you're going in it for the glamour. But I just think it would have placed a lot of pressure on us, especially as this is the year that we're going to win the FA Cup as well. So we could have. I think we're really welcome to not have those extra fixtures thrown into the calendar. So it's weird because tonight's kind of cranked it up and cranked the excitement up, and now we've got quite a long wait, haven't we, before we can be back in action? But
March. Yeah, sorry, it's early March. Is the first leg. I think it's something like the 4th or the 5th, and then the following whatever date that would be, 11th and 12th, I think. Yeah, something to look forward to at a later date. Obviously, we'll get to that. There's a draw for the knockout playoff round. So those 4 teams that we could play, they'll know who each other they're playing. So in theory, the 2 best teams could play against each other, I think, unless I'm wrong. So one of the better teams might not be in the conversation to play us anyway. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Keep your eyes on the Champions League stuff. Me and John will do another video at another point. Let's go backwards to before the 95th minute or whatever it was and talk about today's game. Should we start with the man of the match to get us into it?
Yeah, we can do. Yeah, let's go for it.
Go on then. It's everybody's favourite section. It's time for the Man of the Match award, and we're going to pick our top 3 in order. And if there wasn't 3 good players, it's a bit of tough isn't it? Oh, there wasn't 3 good players. Well, there certainly was 3. I can think of a couple very, very easily. For those that are new to the format change, we pick a top 3 in order. First place gets 3 points, second place gets 2 points, and third place gets 1 point. We'll keep track of the points, and we'll have a definitive who was Villa's best player come the end of the season. All the comments are making their suggestions as well, but we'll get to those in a sec. Do you want to ping me your three, or do you want to take one at a time?
I'll go on. I'll go across the podium. I think that the obvious one in the gold medal place, probably he scored the hat trick, hasn't he? And not only did he score the hat trick, and I thought it was one of his, he has ups and his downs, and it was proper up performance. Was Morgan Rogers, and even after that, when he was being presented, when he was doing his post match stuff, he's so dexterous that he could hold the match ball, his man of the match trophy, and take a selfie at the same time. And I thought, blimey, these kids today, they really can do it all, can't they? So I'll give it Morgan Rogers. I'll probably have Jacob Ramsey in the silver medal position because I thought he was brilliant again. I love watching him. I love watching both of them when they're in full flow. I think, this game is often about numbers in terms of goals and assists and stuff, but sometimes it's what's easy on the eye and seeing aesthetically pleasing moments of football. And I think both of those guys, when they're on it, can provide that. I don't know. I'm probably missing some obvious ones now, but I thought McGinn made a difference when he came on, so I'd probably put him in my bronze medal place. We'll probably get to the goals later, but that was just trademark McGinn for the Watkins goal. I'm not sure there's many other footballers who can use the body like that.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
So I thought he came on and made a difference as the game went on. So I don't know whether those three differ much from your three or.
Obviously, more than happy to stick Morgan Rogers in first, but I think that's absolutely undisputed. We'll come back to him in a second, but a Champions League hat trick. It's mad, isn't it? So he takes undisputed top spot. I'm fine with Ramsey second. I don't mind that. I'll see what the comments suggest in a second. Kamara has to be in there. I know he always is.
Is that not a separate category?
I know, but no, because then we really overcomplicate the format. He absolutely has to be in there. Third, potentially. Playing a different position as well. Like I know we've said before, like how different is it? It's 10 yards further back, but he's playing a centre back. He's playing on the left side. He's having to come out on his left foot, and he did do that. At times, he looked a little bit very minorly uncomfortable and wanted to use his right, but had to use his left and did it. He played well in a different position. So Kamara has to be in there. The only other one, and I think this might be a little bit unpopular, I don't know whether he'd certainly be in the top three, but a shout out for Watkins, who has scored. And I know the penalty is the penalty. I thought he played really well as well, not just the goal. Like the things that we kind of compare Watkins and Duran, who would have finished that one better and all that kind of stuff. We always lean back to Watkins' overall game is stronger than Duran's at the moment. And don't worry, we will talk about Duran in a bit for the obvious reasons. But that was like the game that helped show what Watkins is, dragging us up the pitch, holding onto the ball, playmaking. So he's got a goal. He's been involved in the game. I'm happy with Rogers and Ramsey for top two. We'll send it to the comments. Who was yours? McGinn?
I got McGinn, but I think
McGinn or Watkins?
Right, I think Kamara first of all. I forgot
Kamara.
I think he plays a different game sometimes. Never mind playing a different position. I thought that the only one thing you could say about Kamara tonight, you could say, well, he looked like a natural centre half, albeit a natural centre half with a bit more flair. Maybe not as physically commanding and demanding. And there was times where you thought, has he quite got that extra yard of pace to get out of trouble? But it was only that one thing that playing on the left side of the pair made you think, well, he's a bit out of, he's a bit out of position here. It wasn't that he can't play there and he can't play well. It was just having to adjust onto his right foot for all the time. But I think, listen, I thought that the three that I mentioned were kind of, I won't say playing at the peak of the powers. Kamara just makes everything look so easy. I think him and Tielemans sometimes, as if they're almost playing, because we got a bit ragged, didn't we? When we conceded the 2 goals, it was like, here we go, what's happening again? But those two never seem to quite be associated. Even when it gets a bit nervous, they still just play the game at their own pace. But yeah, I think. Listen, we've gone from the 3 nominations to 5 nominations. Watkins is really, really interesting because he's got 2 assists, I think, hasn't he, tonight?
2 assists and a goal. Yeah, he's got to be in the top 3. I think Watkins.
you know, if that penalty had gone in, he'd have got the assist and the goal because he kicked it against his own foot. But people will say, well, you know, that one in the first half, I actually could see what he was doing. But if he'd have put that in, it would probably been a very different game.
The little dink.
Yeah, so I could see what he was doing, but you've got to make sure with that. I mean, let's face it, like Schmeichel's pulled off about 3 or 4 really good saves as well.
Really annoying.
Yeah, it is really annoying. But yeah, I don't know what are people saying in the comments.
The comments have absolutely disregarded Ramsey, which I agree. I thought he was good, but not in the top 3 for basically everybody. So I think we probably have to change that. I think we have Rodgers first, Watkins second, and Kamara third would be my top 3. I don't think McGinn gets near the top 3. I thought he was helpful in changing the game, but he wouldn't be a shout for man of the match. You happy with that 3?
I'm not happy about Ramsey falling out of it, but
really,
it's a democracy in it, so I'll go with.
Not one single comment has mentioned Ramsey, so I think.
Yeah, I know, but my voice is greater.
Oh, okay, wow. Ooh, some people won't like that.
Everybody just turns their back on us there.
Yeah, exactly. Right, talk me through the goals then. Well, not literally. You're not a commentator, despite your Christmas impression. Such a fast start, an unbelievably fast start. I mean, obviously we did our preview. Some Villa fans thought that we were disrespectful, maybe isn't the right word, but that's what I'll go with, of Celtic, in the sense that we were just like, oh, we'll win, or like we back Villa to win. We know the kind of narrative around Scottish sides that, oh, if they're in the Premier League, they'd be rock bottom and they wouldn't even get out of the Championship, all that kind of narrative. But Villa on paper are a better football side than Celtic, in my opinion, and most opinions, I think. And we had a bit of a pushback on, let's not kind of write Celtic off. I still was, despite their fight back, I still thought Villa, they're going to win this game, because we have to. If everything goes our way, this is our chance to get into the last 16. We will win. I was pretty confident on that, even if I didn't say it in that way. A few Celtic fans commented on the preview saying, like, we've got suspensions, we've just sold the striker that I've forgotten the name, we've got a couple of injuries, like, I think Villa will probably win this, maybe 2-1, like a tight game. We'll make it difficult, but I think Villa will win. So that kind of reassured me a bit that I wasn't being silly. That fast start was not what I was expecting at all. I thought we'd come out and start well and maybe score first, but to get 2 goals, like you said, we didn't touch the ball for the first minute. So to get 2 goals in about 4 minutes of us having the ball, both from Rodgers, both good goals as well, I was like, that was justified everything I said before, because this could be 9-0 at this rate, the way we're scoring. This could be easy. Yeah, Farmers League, all that kind of stuff. Very quickly, after the first, 15, 20 minutes, we kind of took the foot off the gas. And that's what we've seen a lot when Villa are ahead. We see this from Emery a lot, don't we? You can't really see my hands doing this. Which everyone presumes is like, calm down or slow it down. It might not be that, but I think it probably is. And it's a bit like, no, do what we were doing just, because when we're quick, and we've said this before, when we play quick and we kind of cut through teams, we can be absolutely lethal and we can beat basically anybody when we play like that. Villa's problem is they don't play like that for very long. We get in the lead, normally only by 1 goal, and we just sit back a bit and we take our time and take it steady. And there probably is a time and a place for that. But sometimes you just got to kill the game, and 2-0, although it's a good scoreline after 5 minutes, it's never enough, is it? Because it's that dodgy scoreline that if Celtic get 1, I mean, they should never get 2 in the circumstances they did. But if they get 1, it's iffy. Villa should have killed the game at 3 or 4 by half time. And for whatever reason, we don't do that.
Yeah, I don't think tonight, I don't think it was for the want of trying, though. If you think about the chances that we've had that one that Watkins has dinked and has not had enough pace to carry across the line. I think, was it Ramsey whose foot has had a shot that's kind of hit the post, and Schmeichel has just clawed it back from... I think it hit Schmeichel's toe onto the post and he's clawed it back. So I don't think we consciously took our foot off the pedal. I think the aim was to get the 3rd and the 4th goals before half time. It was just modern day Aston Villa just don't do things without giving the opposition a chance. And it was the goals that we. Well, do you want to talk through our goals? First of all, I thought Kamara showed his class for the first goal, the way he stepped up, and I think I was doing my usual and shouting at Luca Dean, whip the ball in. He knows best as giving it to. I can't think of, was it back? Who was it who played the through ball to Ramsey?
I'm just skimming through the goals now so I can actually remember. So
it was Tielemans, wasn't it? It slotted Ramsey in down the left. And it was just so slick. It was just so brilliant. Villa at their absolute best. And then you think, well, actually, that's taken a little bit of the nerves away. And we're just suddenly pressing with real intensity now. We've won the ball back quite quickly.
That's such good football. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm just watching it now. Kamara pings it over the top to Dean. Dean checks back, gives it Ramsey. Ramsey to Tielemans, and that kind of like, I'm going to have to do this visually, that pass that's like a vertical kind of bang, bang, like the runner's gone and gone again. Obviously, it's a 1-2, but it's like not like a triangle. It's like, I'm coming to you, and then you're going to go back to me, back the way I've come from. Tielemans threads Ramsey through, and he puts the ball for Rodgers. Like, that's such a lovely goal. And I say, I want us to play it like all the way through kind of thing. Somebody said you can't play at that pace for 90, and you can't. But the point I would want to make is once you get to 2, just get to 3 even, and then you can. I know it's being really greedy, but 2 isn't enough. If you can just play that way for the first 10 or 15 minutes and get the 3rd, then you can kind of go, right, let's cool off a little bit. I'm not expecting them to play for 90 minutes like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I'm harking back a little bit, but in the early days of Emery, a 2-0 lead would have been enough because Villa would have actually been able to kill that game even without getting the 3rd goal. We know we're not quite at that place at the moment, and we've got defensive deficiencies which have been obvious. I think the good thing about it was that it wasn't just the first. I actually think the 4th goal is probably a little bit scruffier, but that is testament to what you said about Watkins, that he's still putting that pressure on the defender. When the game is, well, to be fair, I think Villa thought, well, we might need a few more goals anyway. So I'm not sure whether don't want to cast aspersions. I'm not sure whether Watkins, if that was a Premier League game and Villa were 4-2 up, he might not have been quite as intense to win the ball back. But the football the Watkins' ball to Rodgers for the 2nd goal was first class as well, and then he's kind of spanked it in the top corner. And it's just, we are so good, we're so capable. So that's why we get, that's why we're so frustrated when there's little kind of chinks in the way that we play that stop us from being that real kind of dominant force for 90 minutes. But it's football, isn't it? You're playing against another 11 players who are going to have their moments and they're going to make life difficult for you. So I don't know. As much as I was cursing it when we threw away that 2-goal lead, I couldn't have been more delighted with the way it played out. It just made a bit like the new Champions League format has made it interesting throughout. Aston Villa's habit of shooting ourselves in the foot has also made it interesting throughout as well.
Yeah. I'm just flicking through the highlights and getting distracted now because it's just some really nice moments of play in there. I think you're right. That's where the sense of frustration comes from. That if you can do it, then why can't you just do it all the time? Let's talk about their goals quickly. I get distracted by a comment. Oh yeah, I was going to ask a couple of people. Was the opening 5 minutes swashbuckling? Would you go as far to describe?
I think it probably was. Yeah,
think it was. Certainly up there, isn't it? Their goals. Frustrating, easily avoidable, potentially. Kind of a familiar story that we've seen from Villa before. Balls coming from wide areas down the right-hand side. Obviously, Cash, I think, has gone off. Yeah, Cash has gone off by that point. Bogart's playing right back. When you're back 4, Bogart, Konsa, Kamara, Dean, like it's hard. I mean, that back 4, they won't play together at Wolves, but you'd like to think that back 4 is not going to play together very often. So you kind of expect deficiencies, but the balls come down that right-hand side for the first goal. And then the second, I mean, both Rodgers and Ida both scoring 2 goals in 2 minutes in different parts of the game is unusual. Conceding the first can happen. I said this to a couple of people around me at half-time or whenever it was. 2-0, you kind of lose a bit of momentum. You can concede. It happens. What you shouldn't do in that moment, at home especially, in this massive game, big atmosphere, whatever, you don't concede again. Ideally at all, but certainly so quickly. To concede 2 in a couple of minutes is really poor. I'm trying to scroll through the second video. Is there anyone to blame? Or Celtic a good goal? It's a nice little flick. Players across the box, and he does kind of run between Konsa and Bogard. Should Bogard pick him up better in that position? I don't know. I don't know if I'm being too harsh, but those goals felt like, I've kind of seen that before, and that's annoying.
Yeah, I think the flick for the second goal, I can't remember which player it was, but the lad who flicked it round the corner has probably taken about 4 of our players out, I think, with that flick. And I think it is. I just think it's ball watching. I think, like you said, he gets in between Konsa and Bogard. And I think, and I don't want to dig out this defence because it's needs must at the moment. And like I said, Kamara's slotted in there as we know Kamara can. I thought probably, I don't know, it probably lacks a little bit of aggression and leadership. You've got Bogart, who's a rookie in there. You've got Konsa, who he kind of, I don't know, with Konsa, he's not a shouter, he's not a screamer. He's very efficient and he looks after himself, and but I don't think he's the one who can really kind of galvanise the defence. And then you've got Kamara, who, yes, can play there with a little bit of a swagger about him, but he's not going to be the one who's commanding in there. And then you've got kind of Luke Dean, who is a good experienced defender, but again, very kind of understated. I'm not saying you need a kind of big ranter and a raver in there, but you just wonder if, I don't know. I think I've got the word passive in my head, but I think that's unfair. I think that's too much. But I think, it's exposed the fact that we've got one fit centre half at the moment. And yes, we can get players in there in a makeshift capacity, but that's not going to see us through for long, really.
How much of a difference do you think the calf injury made? I've not seen anything since. I mean, I'm sure would have been asked about him and maybe said, we'll find out in the coming days or whatever, rather than give a definitive answer. I'm sure they wouldn't know yet, potentially. Thought he was playing well up until that point, and it makes a difference, doesn't it? That can be attributed as part of the reason of why Villa fell apart a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, I thought he started well. I think it's one of those ones. Ultimately, Emery's been proved right because Villa went on to win the game. Again, we went the long and scenic and painful and stressful route, but we went and won the game. I think he clearly doesn't see Nedeljkovic as the answer. I think it was probably a little bit of a case of he's probably going to be out the door on loan in the next couple of days anyway. So do we need to risk him in being injured? So, and I think it's one of those ones when Cash went off and he put Bogard in there, you're suddenly disrupting 2 parts of the pitch rather than just one. And I think it took Villa a while to bounce back from that. I think Bogard at right back is clearly not the answer. No. I think I thought Bailey played pretty well second half compared to Bailey's levels that we've come to expect this season. There's one moment where he played an absolutely sublime ball through for Morgan Rogers that forced another save from Schmeichel. But down that right flank, we've said it before, when Konsa plays at right back, if you've got Konsa at right back or somebody out of position at right back like Bogard, and you've got Bailey, who's not quite the Bailey of old, that limits how much success you can have down that flank. And I found that second half that Konsa turned inside quite a lot of times because he didn't think that moving the ball to Bogard was necessarily going to be a way of us advancing the ball up the pitch. And I don't think Bogard was that inclined to cross the halfway line too many times. I think he was just focused on doing a solid job defensively. I can't remember what your question was, but I've just rambled on for about a minute there anyway.
Can't remember either. The penalty. It was a penalty, firstly. It definitely was a penalty. And a little bit like the kind of attempted dink, which there's a lot of people around me kind of like, just put your foot through it, hit it hard, hit it properly. I like you. You can see what he's trying to do. Didn't quite get the execution bang on. The defender's not quick to get back on the line. He has beat the keeper. It is going in. Yeah, one of those. Doesn't really matter. It goes on not to matter. I mean, same as the penalty. We won the game despite the miss. I don't remember seeing a penalty like that in the stadium. There will have been ones, but it's like, what's just happened there? I did wonder. I've not seen a close up of it back, and I've not seen like the pre-penalty stuff. There does seem to be a lot of hullabaloo, let's say, on the penalty spot. It felt like Was the Celtic players digging a little divot in there?
Oh,
Was Schmeichel?
I never jumped to that conclusion. There was a lot, and it's the typical, was it McGinn protecting the ball and keeping Watkins away from all the whatever it is, the trolling or whatever you want to call it. I thought you were going to say you'd never seen a penalty scuffed like that.
I've never seen a penalty like sort of players slip and sky it so high in the stadium. I don't think for
it's
a
a bit
player.
like the kind of John Terry Chelsea
Yeah.
Champions League final one, wasn't it? In the way that just his legs went from under him. That actually, you normally see that kind of manoeuvre from somebody on prize where it lies, don't you? Down that end of the end of the stadium. You don't normally see it on the penalty spot. I tell you what I felt was really heartening and really encouraging, and maybe part of it was because what we know is happening with John Duran, but the warmth that the Holt and Villa Park showed towards Watkins, almost to kind of say, listen, these things happen, and kind of picked him back up again. I thought there was a big kind of Ollie Watkins loving. Maybe that is us appreciating him a little bit more because we know that we're not necessarily going to have that kind of option to chop and change him like we've done so far this season. So I thought that encouragement was really nice for him.
Yeah, and we've spoken before, and I don't want this to get into a massive like Ollie Watkins debrief, but when he knows he's going to be playing and he knows he's the main man, you kind of see a more confident, informed Watkins. The last couple of games, actually, he completed the 90 minutes tonight. And we said recently about coming off at 16, knowing you're coming off, knowing Duran's coming on, whether it's just to keep him happy or whatever, just disjoints everything, and he deserves, with the performances he puts in, to have the 90 to try and get the goal in the latter stages rather than do all the hard yards for nothing. He deserves his goal often and doesn't get it, sometimes through his own fault, sometimes by being dragged early. So it will be interesting to see what the next few months provides for Watkins. Undoubtedly, his future holds beating Gabby Bonahor's record this season. I think he needs 6 or something in the Premier League, which if he doesn't get it in the remaining games left, he's had a very poor second half of the season. But, you could score a hat-trick against anybody and all of a sudden you're kind of halfway there. So, yeah, big respect to Ollie Watkins. I'm a big fan of his, as people who listen regularly will know. The Duran stuff away from Celtic briefly, there's over 1,000 people still here as we cross into Thursday morning now. Obviously, most people who have been at the game, anyone who's not been at the game will have seen more maybe on being online. I think David Ornstein broke a story that he was having a medical during the game, which is quite unusual. Obviously, we had all the Ollie Watkins Arsenal bid stuff before the game, which again is also unusual. The Duran stuff came out just before Monaco, which was interesting. The Arsenal Watkins bid comes out just before Celtic, also interesting. Obviously, there's absolutely nothing there. Villa suggests Watkins is not for sale at any price, and obviously, if Duran is leaving, which it looks like he is, then we're not going to sell both strikers in January. That'd be insane. So Watkins will go nowhere for now. Maybe in the summer it's a different conversation, but I doubt it then even. So Watkins stays. Watkins becomes the main man, even if it's only temporarily. And John Duran makes a move to Saudi Arabia at 21 for however much money he makes. Fair play. And wherever he ends up next, which won't be Saudi Arabia for long, in my opinion. And Villa get, what is it, £65 million? Seems to be the number that I've seen floated about a few times, which I feel conflicted in 2 ways. Second, we'll talk about the player in a second. From the money perspective, I almost, part of me feel a little bit disappointed by the fee, that I thought it was going to be more, which maybe says a lot about how highly we value John Duran, but also it's January, prices tend to be inflated. Can we replace him properly with the money we're getting for him? I was thinking it was going to be close towards £80 million rather than 65. But also, I also kind of think there is an alternative universe where John Duran is sold in the summer just gone because of the West Ham stuff for 25 or 30. If they stump up the cash, and we're kind of we've kind of doubled his price by investing in him for 6 months. Do you know what I mean? So, it could have been a lot worse, but I was expecting it to be slightly higher.
Yeah, I'm a bit. I don't know what to make of it all, Dan, really, because I don't think Villa would have had to sell him this window if him and his representatives hadn't have made it clear that he was angling for for a move. So,
which is not the first time, as we all know.
no, and I'm disappointed that it does seem like very young to be going to the Saudi graveyard. But listen, he's going to earn an absolute fortune, and whether he's a success there, how do you quantify that anyway? Whether he's a success there or he's not a success there, he's still going to be probably back in Europe and back competing at the top end of Europe for a really big football club. Now, I think Villa, certainly with Unai Emery, I think he's quite a shrewd guy, and I think a player who, he's gone from, I don't know, from nothing to everything in a way. I think what's happened to him this year in terms of some of the goals he scored, in terms of some of the big, like, glorious goals that he scored, the impact that he's had. If he was doing this last summer, agitating for a move, thinking I'm destined for greatness, and then you feed into it all that's gone on since then, and representatives who would have been in his ear last summer when he'd not achieved much at all, you can imagine now why he thinks that he is the main man.
I've scored against Bayern Munich. Of course, I deserve to move.
Well, yeah. So it's that, and I think Emery's probably thinking, probably with the money men in his ear as well, thinking, well, actually, in January, I'm not sure you're going to see that many people. I'll probably be proved wrong, but that does seem to me like a really significant fee. The problem comes, like you said, with, yes, if you just banked that 65 million quid or whatever it was, and you put that on your bottom line, and that went towards easing your PSR concerns that you might have had to tackle in the summer, that's great. But I'm not sure Villa can afford to go forward with really, you could say that they've signed Marlon, but we've signed Marlon because we've got a problem on the right wing.
Yeah, so that's different. Yeah.
That Marlon probably could play across any positions across the front, but Villa are going to have to, and I'm sure they will do, and I'm sure there's a contingency plan already in place. Going to have to spend a chunk of that money, and it's kind of it's weighing it up, isn't it? But I just think when a player probably makes it that clear that he doesn't want to be here, or that he doesn't want to be here to play a bit part role anymore, I don't know. I think Villa are too wise to try and win that battle twice. They've done it once. I think they must have been given very clear indications that his head's not in it. Let him go.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense, to be honest. I know there's a lot of, because we've got two great strikers who both have interest, by the way. 60 million bid for Watkins, 65 million for Duran. I mean, how many strikers have got 120 million pounds worth of striking talent across two players? One of those is very often going to be sat on the bench, and we've said before, we're not in a position to have 65 million pounds worth of talent sat on the bench when we need 65 million pounds worth of investment in the starting 11. So if Villa can become a better unit because of Duran's sale, I'm absolutely fine with it. There's a lot of banking on potential that he's going to be the best striker in the world. Well, he also might not be. He also might, I'm not saying this is going to happen, touch wood it doesn't. He might get a bad injury. He could have, anything could happen to stop that potential from being fulfilled. And maybe in 2 years' time, we're thinking, Christ, I really wish we'd have taken that 65 million because he's not even worth half of that now. Ollie Watkins, if people don't rate him for whatever reason, or he's coming to the end of his career, because he's 29 now, and let's accept that 60 million from Arsenal and move on. Duran's the future. Duran doesn't want to be here. We've seen plenty of times he doesn't want to be here. As soon as the bright lights of London come calling, or a massive wage packet from Saudi Arabia at 21, is that who Unai Emery wants in his side to build the Aston Villa project to the next level? I don't think it is. I don't think it ever has been John Duran. And Villa will have to spend the money. This is not a Danny Ings situation where we lose him and don't replace him because Ollie Watkins becomes undisputed number one. You would sense that Villa have sold him now because I think they could have got this fee in the summer anyway. Because either his head's been turned, he doesn't want to be and he wants to leave. Fine, okay, we need to get rid of him. We need to solve this. Or Villa have spotted an opportunity that, okay, well, we didn't realise that, example, João Felix is available for 35 million this window. So let's take that 65. Unai Emery loves João Felix. for half the price. He comes in and starts in the team. I think it's really important to suggest, anyway, from my point of view, whoever replaces Duran in the squad is somebody that's going to be starting more often than not. It's not about finding Ollie Watkins' backup, who is probably not going to be as good as Duran and going to cost half as much money and do the same job of just sitting there. You want to bring someone in who can play as a 10, as a support striker, as a right winger, whatever, that kind of hybrid role that will play most weeks with Watkins, with Marlon, with Rodgers, whoever, but also is capable of, if Watkins is suspended or gets a 2-week injury, this mystery figure can also play the focal point, can play the number 9, can play the false 9, whatever role it is. In a pinch, João Felix can play up front, supported by Rodgers and Ramsey, etc. He's your number 10, but he can do that role further forward. I think that's the profile that Villa will go for to replace Duran. I don't think we're looking at who replaces Harry Kane? Who's going to just be Harry Kane's backup? I don't think we're looking for Ollie Watkins' backup. You're looking for someone to support him. And if Villa have spotted that opportunity for January, you cash in now, you get that done. Unai Emery wants him. For me, as much as Duran has potential to be great, that ticks a lot of boxes, and I kind of get it.
Yeah, I think it's one of those ones with Duran, and listen, I know this is not an either or, but if you had to lose, let's take Watkins out of the equation at the moment, and it might because the lad's just spanking a hat trick tonight. If somebody said to me, you've got to sell Duran or Morgan Rodgers tomorrow, who was going to be more valuable to the future of Aston Villa? It'd be Morgan Rodgers every single time. And I've spoken in the past about Morgan Rodgers potentially being the long-term successor to Watkins. I'm not convinced about that now. I think Rodgers is better operating from deep and moving the ball forward. I'm not sure whether he'd be a kind of back to goal striker. I'm sure he could be it, but I don't think it'd be the best use of him. I think we just have to. Hang on a sec. I'm just got to. I've just got to wipe away my tears.
Oh no!
Oh
no!
I think we'll eventually.
Sorry for the audio listeners. Matt just rubbed his eyes with a John Duran printed shirt. When did you get that?
It's my son's. It's been probably stinking. It's been in the wash basket actually for a week. It's not going to get washed now. It's been night tonight, so we'll.
Is it getting burned?
I'm not going to be that petty and stick a picture of me, stick a video of me burning it across TikTok or whatever. I'm still a bit stunned, to be honest. I thought that you might get one of the big European clubs coming in for him and turning his head, but it just feels like such a waste.
Yeah, but I'm also a little bit. We're Aston Villa fans, right? Not John Duran fans. I know all this is easy to say when a player is departing and it's done. For you to say I'd rather keep Rodgers than Duran, well, yeah, because Duran's going, so that's a much easier decision to make, isn't it? I suppose if there was a genuine bid for Rodgers that was 65 million and you had to weigh up that decision, I mean, I still agree with you, but maybe you would feel differently. But that potential is just potential, and there's just a part of me that's just a little bit sick of hearing about it. Like every transfer window, Duran's liked a few Chelsea tweets, or his agents rocked up to Barcelona's training ground or something. I just don't care. Just be done with it. Take the money and reinvest that in a squad that Unai Emery wants and can mould and make better. And if Villa are better for it, that's what I want. I'm not bothered about what Duran's career looks like. If he goes on to be good for somebody else, fine. He might not have been good for Villa.
Yeah, I found it interesting his kind of demeanour tonight, because obviously there's that clip doing the rounds of him messing around on the bench, isn't there, tonight? You've seen that. But it was interesting as some of the players and some of the officials were gathered on the final whistle, after the final whistle, waiting for confirmation that we'd made the top 8. Duran was just kind of wandering around. He looked like a bit of a lost soul, and it looked like, I don't know. I don't
want on the bench, to be honest.
It looked like he knew that the party was happening without him, and I think, well, listen, you've made yourself a hero, and it took some doing, because if he's giving it the big hammer sign and he's liking Chelsea tweets and posts and stuff like that, to go back from that to become a whole 10 hero, obviously he's scoring a winner against Bayern Munich probably helps, but You've had it. You've had our adulation. You've had our adoration, and I know that you want to be a wealthy man, and I know that you want to win things, but you've done the hard bit. You've kind of won us over. For what? You're just going to leave that to go and kick around and
Looks
do
like
you know
it.
what I mean? Kind of clean Ronaldo's boots. I just just listen. We're massively biased. We're an Aston Villa podcast. Anybody who leaves Aston Villa is by the very nature of leaving Aston Villa going somewhere that is not as good as Aston Villa. But it's weird because you don't want him to get to a Premier League rival. So I get that.
Oh, I'm happy he's going to Saudi. I think it's the best place for him.
So I'm kind of comfortable with it, but it just feels like a waste. It feels like a shame.
I don't think he'll be there long.
Man. He'll probably be there for 6 months a year, and then he'll probably rock up at Newcastle as Isak's replacement or something, won't he?
Yeah, I could genuinely see that happening for a mysteriously cut price fee.
Yeah.
I could 100% see that saying. John Duran is not going to Saudi Arabia at 21 for the next 10 years of his career. 2 years max, and he's back either in the Premier League or a European super club or whatever. But then again, like, how do you? I mean, this is not for us to answer now. How do you even quantify what's good for John Duran? Like, he's got to go and score like 50 goals a season or something. I seen a comment there, and I said this to my dad earlier. What's Ivan Toney up to? I've got no idea. I don't know. Has he scored? Has he scored 20? I've got literally no idea. That's not on my radar at all. Maybe that says more about me. But Duran going to Saudi Arabia and scoring, I don't know, 30 goals a season alongside a 40-year-old Ronaldo, does that warrant Real Madrid going and saying, oh, yeah, here's 100 million? Like, to me, it's just like, it might as well be make-believe. Like, is it even happening? Do you know what I mean? Like, what's the point? What does that prove, John Duran? A little bit, yeah.
Why are we all here? What is the purpose of life?
What's the meaning of life, Matt? You know what I mean?
We when we on the drive back, we were chatting about John Duran and how he's kind of broken our hearts and all that kind of stuff. But it got us to, for some reason, we went from that to what's it called from what the bloody hell am I doing here? Man or Muppet. We started thinking, is he a man or is he a Muppet? And we had a really good sing-song to some of the Muppets' greatest hits on the way back. Okay. So it's probably one of the best kind of carpool karaoke's we've had. So he's left us that, if nothing else. So.
There's a comment from Connor actually earlier on, which is a good time to drop this in, saying, do you guys not miss the chance to go on the beer rather than coming back to entertain us plebs? I mean, don't do yourself down, Connor. You're not plebs. You're our lovely, lovely audience. Firstly, I wouldn't have been going out on the beers at this kind of time on a Wednesday night. Don't be silly. I've got to be up for the nursery run in the morning. Also, this is work as well. Like, as much as we joke around and whatever, it's 12:30 at Thursday morning. I've been paid to do this. Like, this is part of my job. So we're having a good laugh, aren't we? Entertaining the plebs.
I've not been invited out anyway. I thought I might be invited out with Morgan Rogers and the Collegate Massive. We could have been in the round of beef having a lock-in now down Collegate. But no, I'm a boring old man. So this is how I get my kicks on a Thursday morning, is it? So
mad, isn't it? I mean, there's 1,100 people watching now. Like, the audience has gone up over time, when it tends to go down the longer you're on air because people just go about their lives. We've done 53 minutes. There's one other very quick talking point I was going to go through. Are we done with everything else? I kind of feel bad about wrapping up when clearly there's thirst for more content, but I don't want to just be sitting here for the sake of
it. Yeah, I think so. I'm just seeing if there's anything I've written down. No, I have nothing else to say. What are we gonna wrap up with?
There's a couple of comments about like transfer related stuff, which I'm not going to get into now. Like, obviously, Buendia has confirmed his new contract, which I think is a year extension because it was out in the summer, and a loan move to Bayer Leverkusen, which respects him going out and playing some football for a decent level. So looking forward to seeing what he can do. The new contract is to extend his value if he does well for Bayer Leverkusen for the back end of this season, and they activate an option, I think it is, in his contract. It will be worth X amount because he's on a newer contract. So interesting. I don't think we'll see Buendia play for us again, but that requires him having a good loan spell. Louis Barry, also a very similar story, new contract and a loan move to Hull. Some championship football for Louis Barry to kind of see what he's made of for the second half of the season. So, excited to see how they get on. From a Villa perspective, do they come back in the team and do anything for us? From a Buendia perspective, I doubt it. From a Louis Barry, I'm not sure he's ready just yet, but the rest of this season will prove if he can do it in the championship or not. Or are they kind of pawns in the PSR merry-go-round that they're all of a sudden worth some money in the summer, and that helps Villa add to the John Duran pot of gold.
I presume that that Buendia, if he encounters us later in the Champions League, will not be allowed to play against us.
No, I think you can play.
Can he?
Ealing Jr. played against us, didn't he, for Bologna?
Oh God. I think Buendia needed to go out and play football somewhere else. You know, it's a lot of weight on Leon Bailey's shoulders now that the holy trinity of Ings, Buendia, and Bailey, the Jack Grealish replacement trio, are down to just Bailey. So good luck, Leon.
And how much longer is he lasting?
Yeah, it's Louis Barry. I think it's really interesting. I think Louis Barry's probably going to go potentially down the same route as kind of Cameron Archer, and being that, you know, probably really good EFL level player, but is he quite ready or quite good enough for the Premier League? Is any of his attributes outstanding enough to make him a Premier League player? I don't know. He's still a young man, but I think that's an interesting test for him now. He's gone to Hull, hasn't he? I think so. Be an interesting test for him in the Championship. I think ultimately, you know, Villa will buy and they will produce lots of players. Not all of them are necessarily going to become first team regulars. So the financial side of football has become such an important thing now that, yeah, I think Villa need to be shrewd in terms of when they think that players no longer serve a purpose for us. Can they sell them or get some money at them from at the right time? So yeah, it'd be interesting. I hope Buendia does kickstart his career, because I think he's a cracking little player, but I think Villa have outgrown him.
Yeah,
if I'm honest.
Villa are a very different Villa, aren't they, from the team that he joined under Dean Smith a long time ago now.
Yeah, well, I think this is kind of one of the pinch yourself moments, isn't it, really? That it's our first time at the top table of European football for 41 years, and we've actually gone and smashed it, really. And even some of the results along the way, we probably could have finished a lot higher up that top 8, couldn't we?
Yeah.
And again, I think it's just that sense of perspective, really, that we've come a long way quickly. These are the fun times.
Yeah, I mean, Morgan Rogers should have been having his second, third, and fourth Champions League goal today, shouldn't he? After the Juventus one was wrongly disallowed, but you know, not a bad way, is it, to get a hat trick for your first Champions League goals? Wait until the last game. I think Watkins as well. Was that his first Champions League goals? Am I mistaken? I think it is. I don't think he'd scored in the Champions League before tonight either.
I can't remember.
And if he had, I'm sure that's right. But I mean, the comments will tell me if I'm wrong, as they tend to do. The one thing I wanted to end on was a little bit of nonsense from the Q&A that me and John didn't get to, but I think you're right before it, and 12:30 now is probably peak time for some stupidity. So I'll talk about Kamara's new contract and how that's the next piece of big business for Villa to do, and I totally agree that should be a massive priority for them ASAP. A little bit of like, is Villa holding that up, or is Kamara holding it up because he wants to move elsewhere? I'm not going to go into that now. And somebody said something like, if only we had 11 Boubacar Kamaras, we'd be pretty good, wouldn't we? And that got me thinking, of the Villa squad that we've got now, hopefully I'll explain this properly. If you had to pick one player to have 11 of, who would actually make the best team? Would it be 11 Kamaras? Like, could Kamara do a job in goal? Could he do a job up front, etc.? Do you know what I mean?
Well, he's done a good job at centre half today. I don't know. My mind gets to Emi Martinez, because he's a brilliant goalkeeper and a brilliant footballer with the ball.
That's a good shout, actually,
as well.
That is a good shout, because that's a specialist position that probably some of the others, well, obviously they couldn't do. But could you rely on Martinez to get you some goals up the other end? Probably could, to be fair, couldn't you?
Yeah, I'd have thought so.
I wondered, my answer would have been like a more kind of workhorsey player, which is disrespectful to who I'm about to say, Tielemans, but like he's everywhere, or like a McGinn kind of bundle of energy across the 11, but then McGinn in goal, that doesn't work, does it?
You don't get the old very much centre forward kind of centre half combo now. You've had like Dion Dublin did that back in the day. Played centre half, centre forward, and a guy called Paul Warhurst, I think, who was at Blackburn and Sheffield Wednesday, who started out as centre half, and then he was just thrown up front for a game, I think, and then banged in about 10 goals in a row. So I don't know.
What about Chris Samba doing the other way, centre back to striker?
Oh God,
yeah, blast from the past. How far we've come.
Who'd have thought Chris Samble would have got a name check today?
Yeah. Tielemans said he started in goal recently as a youngster, so maybe Tielemans is a decent shout. Busybody across the pitch, can add goals. Maybe not defensively as good as an actual defender, but Tielemans is a decent shout, I think.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think I would probably go with the original. Though I'd probably quite like 11 boobs, to be honest.
No comment.
There's a bit of blue for the late night show.
Yeah, and the very, very last thing I would need to clear up as much as anything is we hit the hour mark on the post-match show, which is, I mean, it's a special one, isn't it? So why not? From Jay and a couple of others saying, Dan did say he would shave his hair off if we got through. I mean, there's some absolutely missed communication, some crossed wires across the comments. That's not what I said at all when we had the conversation about shaving my head. It was that Watkins and Marlon would score in a 3-2 win against whatever Premier League opposition it was. I definitely didn't say if we get through the Champions League, I'll shave my head because I thought we'd get through. I think somebody said if we win the Champions League, the trophy, would you shave your head? I said, well, yeah, obviously. So, I mean, we are a little bit of a step closer to that, but I'm not shaving my head because we beat Celtic 4-2. If anyone can find proof that I'm wrong, and I did say that, delete it because I'm not doing it. I didn't say that.
To be honest, mate, it's in the process of shaving itself anyway.
Well,
it seems to retreat every time I see you, so you just need to join the club.
That is the passage of time, isn't it?
I've got a shout out actually. My mate texted me today. Let me see if I can find it. We will go in a minute. Oh, crap, where is it? Bear with me. Play some whole music or something, Dan.
Oh, just disturbed by that noise that I just heard then.
What was it?
Like a blah blah blah.
Oh
yeah. Oh yeah.
So there's a boy. So my mate, Sam Goodin, who got me tickets for Arsenal the other week. So I've got to thank him for that publicly anyway. So thanks, Sam. Apparently, his nephew said, "What's your mate who went to the Arsenal Villa game with Mat Kendrick? Why? Just in the pub before the game, and my mate loves him. What's his name? I'll get him to shout out on the podcast if he listens to it. Lee Jones is moving to Australia next week. Never seen him so excited. So big shout out to Lee Jones. And I might be in Australia in the summer because I'm going across to New Zealand to see my sister-in-law and her family. So I don't know where Lee Jones will be. I know Australia's quite a vast.
It's quite big, yeah. Famously,
vast place. But if you're around somewhere near Sydney, yeah, you can meet me. There you go. So.
Oh, what a carrot that is for somebody. Right, that is a good place to end it. Global Pilot, our favourite commenter, who's not, I mean, it's not the pilot that John met, but he is a pilot, says, blimey, I've nearly got all the way to Exeter, presumably in a car, not in a plane. How long is your podcast tonight? We've done 1 hour and 3 minutes on YouTube live because it's a special occasion. We've got through to the top 8. Which, as we said recently, when we did our this is the draw, this is what's going to happen. All we were bothered about back then was top 24, just having that chance, that one-off playoff game. Let's see what happens. We've bypassed that. We've eased our fixture list and we've got straight through to the round of 16 with what feels like to me some decent teams to play and a potential Liverpool-Barcelona quarter-final if they get there themselves. So, it's all kind of come together nicely. We went there the scenic route, like you said. We shouldn't really be conceding 2 goals at home to Celtic, in my opinion, but that's another thing. We got the job done. Others got their job done to help us along the line as well, and we had to do a bumper episode to discuss that. So for the audio version, I'm going to leave this unedited as it was, so you're getting 1 hour and 4 minutes as well. Matt, thank you for joining me very much. I'm sure we're both going to go off to bed now, as everyone else is. Thanks to the 1,000 people that are still watching at 25 to 1 on now Thursday morning. Massive respect to you for joining us. I'm sure there are plenty of other Villa podcasts that are out there that you've listened to as well. So respect for you for joining us. If you're watching on Catch Up, you can scroll down to the comments and share your thoughts on what we've said about the game, the top 8, whatever else. Matt's Duran shirt, RIP. Get involved there as well. There's a Spotify comment section. There's a rating system on Apple Podcasts. For those listening, Matt looks very sad with his shirt, which is it's funny, isn't it? 80 quid down the drain. Mat Kendrick cries again. Thanks everyone watching. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow, I think, or today, with some Champions League content, Wolves preview, Wolves post-match, and some inevitable transfer chat as well as we approach the deadline next week. Right. Night, everyone. And we'll see you in a few hours. God, that's sad, isn't it? Bye bye.